All right. It's your boy Official Go Getter. I'm coming at you guys with another video. Today I am going to be breaking down Nvidia versus AMD, and I'm going to be explaining why Nvidia is the better company and why AMD lags behind. So we're going to be doing a company breakdown on AMD. These are both semiconductor companies. These are chip making companies. They they are they build the graphic computer units, the graphic processing units, GPUs, and the central processing units, CPUs. So this is for the gaming graphics. This is for those chips for AI and just all around computing power. So today we're going to be breaking down why AMD is not as big as Nvidia, because as we can see here on the screen, Nvidia is top 2 in market cap and top 3 within the companies of the biggest companies in the world with the amount of money invested into them. But we see AMD is top 100, but they are obviously not top 2. They're all the way down here at the bottom. So let's do a breakdown on this company, right? Let me get the breakdown things in check so you guys can know the requirements that we look for. So let's see. So for the breakdown checklist, we have how I find stocks to invest in. So this is the checklist I use to find stocks that I invest in. I look at whether or not they are the top in the sector. I look at the company's financials, and I look at what they add to the economy, right? So what top in the sector means, are they the best at what they do? Are they the top at what they do? AMD, they are not the top at what they do. Nvidia is the top at what they do, which is why they end up not seeing the same results as Nvidia. So we're going to break that down. Next, we look at the company's financials. We look at the numbers. How is their company actually growing over time based off their numbers? So first, let's see how AMD is doing today. We'll just start with that real quick on the chart. Let's pull up the chart just real quick and get that out the way. Right, AMD today, we have opened up here at 6:30. AMD has moved up and came back down. So they ended up hitting a high of 94 today and came back down to their open. So AMD actually gapped up overnight from 88 to 90, right? They ended up having a big, they actually did have a big spike up actually last. So that was Wednesday. On Wednesday, had a big spike up along with the market, right? And AMD ended up jumping up 19%, 20% in one day, right? And then ended up coming down. So we're going to be talking about the company's financials and why this stock is. I'm not saying it's a bad stock. I'm not going to sit here and say why this stock is not a good stock, but we're going to break down why this company isn't as good as Nvidia, based off of numbers, and why this stock just isn't as good of a stock as Nvidia stock, right? You see this price is at $91. Nvidia is at $108. I would much rather prefer you guys to buy Nvidia when it comes down to the semiconductor space and not AMD, right? And spend that extra $10 or $20. So I'm gonna break that down right now. Let's get to the company's financials, right? So let's go back. We are using TradingView, the platform TradingView. Let me make sure you guys can see everything on the screen correctly. Yes, you can. All right. So first things first, we want to go to the company's financials, right? That's what I want to look at, right? Here's about the company. I'm gonna do that for you guys. Even though I explain what the company does, let me explain the about for you guys real quick. Let me get this up out the way. Advanced Micro Devices engages in the provision of semiconductor businesses. It operates through the following segments: computing and graphics, and enterprise, embedded, and semi-custom. The computing and graphics segment includes desktop and notebook processors and chipsets, discrete and integrated graphics processing units, data center and professional GPUs, and development services. The enterprise, embedded, and semi-custom segment includes server and embedded processors, semi-custom system on chip products, development services, and technology for game consoles. The company was founded. They just say a whole lot of stuff in like the most obnoxious way. There's no point in using all these big words to just say that these guys make graphic computing units, right? Graphic processing units and central processing units, and they build semiconductors that go into the computers and the chips. And this is what top companies, these top companies use their chips, Nvidia's chips, right, to power their AI, right? But Mostly Nvidia is because Nvidia is the stronger chip in general. Nvidia is the stronger and provides the best performance anyway, right? Because AMD, they actually cater to the lower cost audience, right? So companies, they pay a hefty price for Nvidia, but if they don't want to pay that same price, they go on AMD because their things are cheaper. But what comes with cheaper is less quality. Less quality, I would say. So the quality is just not as good as Nvidia's quality, which is why the company's stock does not do as well as Nvidia's stock. So let's jump into their financials after knowing that. I just want to get into that, right? So we can look, because we've broken down Nvidia's financials already, but I want you guys to see the clear difference of a growing company, right? So AMD's fundamentals, right? Their income statement. So look at the total revenue. Let's look at the total revenue. Right, so quarter two 2023, they started at 5.36 billion and grow over time, right? They ended up staying stagnant from quarter two all the way to quarter one 2024, right? They went from 5.36 billion to a high of 6.17 to then back to 5.47 billion, right? And then quarter two 2024, we ended up moving up 6.82 billion. Now we're at 7.66 billion. Now we actually ended up seeing some substantial type of progress when it comes down to the growth, but for the most part, we've been basically stagnant, right? The company is not necessarily doing bad, but it's not necessarily doing great either. It's just kind of staying stagnant, which is why we're not seeing the results and the results in the stock that's the same as Nvidia, which is a company that is continuously growing and growing and growing, right? So even with the gross profit, we see that they're profiting, but you can see how long this company has been staying stagnant, right? So Nvidia may be actually in a mode where it's going to be seeing a lot more better results soon if this keeps up. I see that within the last, since December 2024, everything has gone up. They're at the highest in the cash and the gross profit and total revenue. They're at the highest since their start, right? So things must be going pretty well for the company, going pretty smooth for the company. Maybe we will see that increase in growth over time. So let's look out on the numbers. So let's look at their total assets versus their liabilities. So let's first, once again, assets versus liabilities. Assets is where you have your money invested into things that are working for you. So this is the type of money, the amount of money that they have working for them. That is the total assets, right? While the total liabilities are the money that they do not have working for them. That's the money that they use to, run the business, whatever it is that takes money out of their pocket, right? So we see that we always want to see the less liabilities. We want to see less liabilities over assets. So assets over liabilities. We can see here that they have their liabilities and assets in check, right? The assets are at 60.9 billion as of today, 69 billion, and 11.6 billion for the liabilities, and their liabilities have actually decreased in the last year, right? So with that being said, the company, their liabilities are looking good, the assets are looking good, but the only thing is they are in the same spot, damn near in the same spot from quarter one 2023 to now quarter four 2024. So that's another thing that I'm talking about, right? Nvidia or AMD is a company that is growing, but at the same time, I don't want to say that they're not growing, but they're just staying stagnant, right? They're not seeing substantial growth. They're not seeing elevation. They're just growing, right? So this is why they don't get that same results, and we see Nvidia, a company that is actually growing, that is actually seeing the profit, that is actually seeing upgrading their products and seeing the results from that return in their favor, right? While AMD is on the other side still trying to play catch up, right? So not saying that they can't ever get to that point, but they're definitely not at that point now, and Nvidia is the top dog, hence why we go and pay attention to the top in the sector, right? Now we're paying attention to the company's financials, right? So the finances of this company aren't necessarily bad, but we're not seeing much growth, which is the only thing that's bad, right? And when it comes down to the cash flow, right, we can see that the free cash flow, they have the free cash flow to implement into their business, to implement into acquiring other companies, acquiring other whatever it is that they may need to run the company, right? And that's been growing over time as well, right? So right now their free cash flow is in the best position that it's ever been in at 1.9 billion, and before it was at around half a billion, right? 500 million. So their cash flow is good. It's just about what they do with this cash flow. Excuse me. It's just about what they do with this cash flow to get the business um, to grow even more efficiently than it is doing now, right? And simply, we can just simply look at how um, AMD's products are just not up to par with Nvidia's products. So let's look at AMD versus Nvidia. All right, so right here it says today AMD has its own GPU software platform, and it makes GPUs that are just as powerful as Nvidia's, if not more so, at least on paper. So, however, testing by independent research and analysis company Semi-Analysis has conducted that AMD software is holding back the performance. AMD is holding back the performance of its GPUs in its report. It's called AMD's out of the box experience unusable. And said that it needed multiple teams of AMD engineers to help it fix software bugs. In the end, the paper specs for AMD's latest GPU did not match its real-world performance. By contrast, Semi-Analysis described the out-of-box performance of NVIDIA's H100 and H200 GPUs are amazing. So it's just simple as that right there, right? NVIDIA's products are just flat out better. Right here, it says that at least on paper, AMD looks like that they are on the same level or equal to NVIDIA's products, but obviously not when you do the research as it says right here in its report. It's called AMD's out-of-box experience unusable, and it said that it needed multiple teams of AMD engineers to help fix its software bugs, right? So this right here is flat out saying that on paper it says one thing, but in person, when it comes down to actually utilizing the software, it has bugs and it needs multiple teams of AMD engineers to fix it, right? It's not just one team, and they need multiple people to fix these bugs, right? So with that being said, on the other side, they describe that the out-of-box performance of NVIDIA's H100 and H200 chips are amazing, right? So that right there would explain to you why AMD is not seeing the same results as Nvidia, which is why you always want to go into this top in the sector, right? Forget about investing into both AMD and Nvidia. Just go choose Nvidia, which is the top one, right? I don't want to hear nothing about AMD, because honestly, whether this company is at a good buy point or not, right, you may be able to both stocks are at a good price. So it's not necessarily cheaper for you to buy AMD when it's at 91 and Nvidia is at 108, right? I mean, the stock may grow over time, but it's not going to grow like Nvidia. And let's see what the company does in the future years. But this is what it's doing now, and that's the breakdown. That's the breakdown for us. With that being said, it's your boy Official Go Getter, and I hope you guys learned something here. But that is why AMD is not as good as Nvidia, and why these two semiconductor companies and chip making companies, right? They are in competition, but there's no competition. It's your boy Official Go Getter, and I'm out.